Hi everyone, welcome to the second video of basic game characteristics with game development theory. If you hear any noise in the background like rattling and that kind of thing, that's just my daughters playing with toys, so don't worry about that. So what we want to talk about today are the length of playtime units, because though we can talk about a session of play or a game of play, what we can't talk about is a more specific terminology because we don't have it yet. So I'll introduce a few new things to you today to do with those, so we can say with a little bit more confidence how long and how full a playtime is. So the first one you probably oh wait, yeah, sorry, I had the wrong slide up. Yeah, the idea here being is we'll just play one more, but what is one more? Well, one more what? It can be very, very different depending on if you're playing Smash Bros or D&D session or something like that. It could be a very, very long period of time. So the first one is the atom. Now the atom you probably haven't heard of before in this context, but you've definitely heard it before molecularly in science or something. So we know atoms are very small, and the way we use atoms in length of playtime is to describe the smallest unit of play necessary to really play a game, to really understand it. So that might be something like in the old Donkey Kong games we had one screen per level. The smallest unit would be that one screen, the atom, that you can then use use as a way to say, do you get the game? Well, yes, I do. I've played one game. I understand everything I need to do. Atoms can come in very, very different sizes, of course. So a screen of Donkey Kong is going to be much shorter than, say, the amount of time it would need for a game like Horizon? Lost something? Horizon Lost Dawn, I think. I can't remember the name of it. 1 second. Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn. Arguably, it would take a lot longer to find to have a really playing a game with the crafting and the fighting and the exploring. It would arguably take a lot longer for the atom of Horizon to go past than the atom for Donkey Kong. So they really vary from game to game. The next unit is the actual game. So the game is a full round of play, so from beginning to end with a winner. So this might be similar to something like a full round of Smash Brothers or something, where you have either a couple of games or all together. I know it's a bit confusing having game as a full from start to finish and game as in one part of a game. But that's why we're doing this, to make sure we understand. So in this case, a game would be sort of a full round of Smash, and someone declared the winner at the end. So after game, we get to session. Now, a session is a single continuous period of play. So you might have quite a few games in one session. I think that's fairly obvious to anyone who's played games with other people, that often you'll have multiple rounds of the same thing, even if it's a longer game, sort of Overwatch or something, or some Hearthstone really long matches. Often you play a lot of them in one session of play. So after you get the session, which is like a collection of games, you then get the campaign. Now, this will make a lot of sense to Dungeons & Dragons players and that sort of thing, because you understand the campaign is the overarching collection of lots of sessions of lots of game sections. So a campaign's kind of like the overarching collection of a series of games and sessions linked in some form. So adventure would be, the point of a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. You might have a entire league in Football Manager or something, where you come back and back to it. So a campaign, the big series of everything. And then, somewhat confusingly, we have the match. So though we talked about the game, we talked about sort of it could be a Smash Bros, could be a game where you have sort of a set of rounds. A match is it's a series of individual games where they have the appropriate amount of sort of games within it to declare a satisfactory winner. So though a fighting game might be sort of 3 rounds, best of 3, a match would more likely be best of 5 games rather than sort of best of 3 rounds. A match is usually declared as well, so you'd have sort of very formal things. So competitions often have very clear matches, so 3 stocks or 3 lives, or first to however many points. So there's lots of ways to sort of declare a match. Okay, so when you first look at these different parts here, I mean, there's a fairly clear link. So every time it gets a little bit bigger, apart from match, which stands to its own place. Atom, you'd expect to always be the smallest playtime unit, but that's not always the case. You often get situations where the Atom playtime length is actually longer than a game, because there's more to do in one round of one game than the Atom can safely say this contains everything to have sort of satisfactorily said I've really played this game. One example of these is something like an MMO, a sort of a massively multiplayer online RPG, where even a session of play sort of longer than one game might not contain everything to really get the game, because you have social aspect, you have sort of large raids and quests, you have gathering and crafting, you have looting legendary armor. There's so much more to it than can probably be contained. We're far away from sort of Donkey Kong screens being one level where you just understand everything about it. So the length of the Atom is actually quite important, because if it's very short, then of course you can understand the game really quickly, and you're more likely to sort of have just one more because it's satisfying. But if it's longer, even if it's longer than the game or entire sessions, it can lead to a far greater player achievement, because you feel like you're putting in a lot more to get something from a game, rather than just sort of like having that dip in, dip out situation. Okay, so we can see that the Atom is important, because of course if you can say we've really played the game, then you've really understood it. But that doesn't mean that just because there's longer atoms, longer than a game or a session can contain, doesn't mean necessarily that makes the game bad. I think a lot of people would argue against me if I said sort of MMOs are bad categorically because their atom is longer than what one session could contain. But that doesn't mean that in any case that MMOs are bad games. Because one of the classic sayings in game development theory is you don't need every good thing to have a good game. Atom length is a very variable idea and measurement, and arguably the different amount of time people can spend on games is actually going to make this really subjective anyway. It's going to be very individualistic towards a person, even if you generally get the idea of how long an atom should be for the game. Some people can deal with that because they have far longer play times than others. Some people only play in lunch times or on the train, so something that's got a far shorter atom length and has can sort of have points at the end and a very clear level is over after 30 seconds situation might suit them better. So the length of the atom is only as important as you let it be, which is a bit of a vague way of saying it, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. Okay, so you've got a few tasks to try. First one is you need to get used to the units. So think of a game and work out the different lengths of the game's units. So if we were to say something like tennis, an atom might be a game or a set. So one game or one sort of small collection of games. The game might be a standard set, so you have a full set or a best of 3 sets. A session might be a tournament. Campaign might be a league, so many games over a long period of time, and a match is pretty obvious. It's a tennis match right there, so that's an easy one. But try and think of your own game you'd like to try. I've chosen tennis because I like tennis. You might want to choose many different games. There's so many out there to try. After you've done that, try and think of a game whose atom length is longer than its session length. So I talked about one today already. How does this matter, or how does this change people's perspectives on it? If the atom length, so to really get a game, length is longer than the session length, so playing and sitting down for one elongated period of time. There is an extension task there as well. An MMO game can have very different session lengths. How do the contents of atoms make these fit or fail to fit into the session? Okay, I'll let you work that out and have a try. Alrighty, that was part 2 of basic game characteristics. Next time we'll actually be going on to our next section, which is number of players and how that affects games. Okay, see you later.